Is Jegant Drago here, and I want to be a mech diver. And what does that even mean? So, a mech diver in this case is someone whose build would be surrounded by the mech. Right now, the mech has received a decent buff a while back, and but it's just not enough quite yet. It's just not quite there for the current design and coolness factor. Now, what does that mean? It means that right now you are sacrificing quite a lot at this moment, having a very long 10-minute cooldown, the longest cooldown currently in the game. There's the new Illuminate, and we might possibly get the car. That car might break that record of 10 minutes or equal, but that's a different issue. And also, the mech only gives you 2 charges, which is, once again, compared to every other stratagem in the game. And if you were to compare the power of the mech compared to the other stratagems, it is a very high toll to pay. Now, there are various ideas going around where some people might say, give us more charges or unlimited charges. And I think this idea is a little bit interesting. We'll get into it, but basically, my thought process here is that the mech is still a very valuable weapon in our arsenal, and to just let it be unlimited, that you can just walk in and throw it away and don't need to be careful, might break its uniqueness of the game. So we here, in my pitch to you, is that the mech will still be limited, but with the idea of ship modules, I highly believe in the idea of ship modules instead of just giving us flat buffs. It will allow us to basically work our way up to unlocking these new abilities ourselves. It will feel more rewarding, and it would also give us a way to use our currency. So just to ask Arrowhead for flat buffs, I don't think that is the way for some of these ideas, so I will specify a little bit later. But right now, one of the ship module upgrades that the mech could use for people who play higher levels and who have collected a lot of resources is basically to add at least one, maximum 2. But for me, it would just be 1 mech charge and lower the cooldown to get a new mech considerably. So the next longest cooldown is the 3080 barrage at 240 seconds. The mechs being at 600 seconds could be relatively reduced down to, let's say, 300 seconds, at least 50%. It's not like you're gonna throw down too many mechs for your team within that time frame. It's more like if you do lose one, you won't be without a mech for a very long time. At the very least, you could use another mech in the shorter missions as well within a decent time frame. Also, this is one of the bigger benefits. Now, this would be sold as a ship module, so not a flat buff. So as far as flat buffs go, a very nice suggestion that I saw online is the ability for the mech to be a hell bomb. Now I'm like 50-50 on this one. So 50-50 as a ship module to let the mech be a hell bomb, like you can manually activate it, or it instant explodes if it gets destroyed. I'm on the side of maybe you should be able to manually activate it, as it might be like a certain skill to be able to actively activate it instead of just having it passively explode once on death. Now, a few other flat buffs, I think, or if you think this should be sold as a ship module, feel free to comment below. But these interactions, I think, should be considered as a flat buff instead of a ship module. So as a mech diver, and you have limited mechs in your arsenal per mission, 2 to 3, if you are careful enough to take care of your mech and not let it get destroyed, once you do run out of ammo, it would be cool if you can replenish that ammo. Now, how could that be done? Since you are investing more stratagem slots into the mech, requiring yourself or a teammate to carry a supply pack, and just like how you resupply your teammates, you can resupply the mech, refilling its ammo. If the mech is damaged, currently maybe there are no way to repair the mech. So this is the other sort of skill set where you really need to really need to be careful about how you take care of the mech and make sure that it doesn't take a lot of damage, especially to ensure that it does not lose any of its arms as well. So as a supply pack goes, since you have a lot of ammo per arm, let's just say, for balance reasons, that each arm will take 2 supply packs. 1 supply pack would be normal, but maybe if you have an extra 2 to share to your teammates, this is okay. But let's say if it's too good to just to be able to resupply your 1 arm with 1 supply pack, let's say it just takes 2. So here you are needing to invest in a full stratagem slot, a supply pack, to refill both arms. Now, another interesting interaction to consider, let's say, is a shield generator. And thankfully, with the new patch and new battle pass, there's also the directional shield. So let's say these 2 backpacks are able to interact with the mech. The shield generator backpack, let's say you plug it into the mech, and currently you do get a small bubble just purely because of the size of the hitbox. You do get a bubble, but it's very small. In this purposeful interaction, the bubble would get bigger to completely fill the body, but let's say the arms are still a little bit exposed. So you completely get a front damage block and backside damage block. And let's say for the sake that this shield still has a little bit less HP, let's say in comparison to the directional shield. So the directional shield, since it's much wider, would block the front of your mech entirely, so both body and arm, and slightly higher HP. But the sides of your mech is exposed to damage. So that is sort of like a pros and cons between these 2 shield types. Another cool interaction that would be nice to see is how your guard dog could be used while you are inside of the mech. So while you go inside of the mech, your guard dog, let's say, just sort of still spawns through the mech and flies around giving you support. This could be a very cool interaction to combine the mech with other stratagems. Now, one last thing based on missions for a cool interaction is how maybe you are able to carry the SSDs or any other valuable packages while inside of the mech and transport it safely to the next location. Now, I'm not sure how this might work with the car just yet. I haven't checked that part out, since 4 people could get on the car. I do suppose one should be able to hold the SSD while inside the car, but maybe not the driver, just the passenger person. That makes sense. If not, that would be quite sad to see. So these are the current ideas for just flat buffs and adding more interaction to the mech. Now, speaking of the mech's actual weaponry, it just needs just a little bit more. Once again, we're talking about a 10-minute cooldown and only 2 charges, even though I might suggest that one should be able to buy a ship module upgrade to reduce that cooldown and add 1 extra slot to the mech. The weaponry still does not fulfill that fantasy of using a very large advanced weapon built by the Helldivers government. So to illustrate that, I want to just quickly compare to a couple other weapons from in our stratagems. Now, first off, we have the Mech Emancipator with the autocannons. So both autocannons from both arms are using 400mm rounds. This is taken from the wiki, and it does a standard of 300 damage and then 150 durable damage. Now, comparing to the autocannon Sentry, the autocannon has the same 400mm cannons, but does 450 standard damage and 450 durable damage. This is a big difference and just shows why this Emancipator autocannon just doesn't seem to be able to be the proper anti-tank weapon that it could be, or at least relatively equal to the autocannon. Now, I'm by no means going to say that the mech that you can drive and walk around should be equal to the autocannon. It might be a tough sell to just have the two damage be equal. But at the very least, the damage should be relatively closer together. Now, the next example would be more egregious and crazy to see. But for now, let's say the damage, and maybe once again, this damage increase could be sold as a ship module. It doesn't need to be a flat buff from the patch, once again, sold separately. But let's say the damage could be around 400 damage flat, standard, and then 250 durable damage. But let's see this next example that I have, which is the autocannon. The autocannon caliber 20mm, so it's a smaller caliber compared to the mech, yet it does 260 standard and 260 durable. So the durable damage on the autocannon is better. Now, there might be other differences, but the video might just be too long. So it will be here or there. So this is very weird to see that you are riding a giant mech and for some reason the durable damage is much lower. So once again, I first pitched 400 damage, but maybe 350 damage standard would be okay. But the main issue right now is that the durable damage, as part of the fantasy of walking around on a giant mech with a 10-minute cooldown, is just far too low compared to the other weapons in your disposal. If the autocannon, which is in a great place at 260 durable damage, maybe the mech should at least have 300, 350 durable damage, while its flat damage, standard damage, be around 400 or 350. Okay, so that is the Emancipator mech done. The Patriot exosuit is a little bit more complicated. It has two different weapons. So we will start with the machine gun. So it is a 60mm full metal jacket at a standard of 90 damage and then durable 23. It is equal to our normal machine gun at also the same 90 and 23. So you're telling me that the heavy machine gun that has 150 damage and then a 35 durable damage does more damage than a giant mech holding a giant minigun in this game. It's just too crazy. Now, I'm not saying let's put an upper limit. Okay, that's why I put the HMG emplacement. The HMG emplacement is also a giant machine gun weapon, giant barrels, and then does 20 damage and 40 durable. This is a nice spot as a reference point where my ideal buff upper limit should be. So it shouldn't be equal to the HMG emplacement because the model weapon for that gun is much larger and wouldn't fit the damage numbers of the minigun on the mech. So at the very least, the minigun on the mech should be buffed to be equal or just slightly higher than the heavy machine gun. I would be happy if it's equal. It would be a very nice buff. And once again, it could be sold as a ship module for the top level players to just achieve that fantasy. It's most disappointing to see how a giant minigun on the mech, the damage on it is equal to just our regular machine gun and does less damage compared to the heavy machine gun. A few other buffs on the Patriot exosuit is to increase the ammo, but once again, if you're able to resupply it with the supply backpack, it would be one or the other. So either you can resupply the mech's ammo or give it more ammo. 1,000 bullets is pretty nice, but maybe 1,500 to 2,000 bullets would be a little bit better. I'm not asking for more than that. Just double the ammo, just a little bit. We kind of just run out of ammo fairly quickly for, once again, a mech that is 10 minutes cooldown and only 2 use cases. Moving on to the last other arm, the missile exosuit. This is also maybe one of the worst comparison. You only get around 16 missiles on the arm and you cannot reload. Once again, if you could reload the missiles with the supply backpack, I would already be happy. But let's say in its current state, it only doing 1,200 damage, 1,250 is just slightly way too low, and you just end up wasting so much missiles on some small targets. When once again, I just must like really double down that you only get 2 of these mechs and a 10-minute cooldown compared to your other options right here. So the commando is a good reference point. We understand the commando only has 1,100 damage here, but it has 4 missiles. And before the previous patches, it had a special unique feature that it can basically take out the bot bunker from any angle. And it was a very unique feature to bring compared to the other missile launchers. But now that you're able to destroy any bunker from any angle from other missile launcher like the recoilless rifle, its use case kinda have dropped in favor a little bit. Now the recoilless rifle has 3,000 damage, and then the EATS expendable anti-tank has 2,000 damage. These are pretty good reference points, once again, for how much damage the mech's missiles should be. So I'm leaning towards somewhere in between, if not closer to the recoilless rifle once again, that the damage on these missiles should be closer to 3,000 damage, if not 3,200 damage. Just keep it the same missiles as the recoilless rifle, if not just slightly lower. Once again, 10-minute cooldown and only 2 charges, 16 or if not 15 missiles, and you're just expending like 2 to 3 to take out a Bio Titan. Who knows how many other missiles it takes to take out other ones as well. So this Patriot exosuit is really not that strong for what it is, the cost to bring it into a mission. It definitely needs a lot more buffs to achieve that fantasy of using an overpowered weapon. With that said, leave your thoughts down below. Let me know what other buffs or ship modules to sell certain buffs and features about the mech And let's see what Arrowhead does in the near future. With that said, until we meet again.